Thomas's shortcut. One fine morning, Thomas was pulling Annie and Clarabel along his branch line when Bertie came driving along the road next to them. "Hello, slow coach!" laughed Bertie. "I'm not slow," huffed Thomas, and he sped off. Thomas arrived at the station 2 minutes early. When Bertie rolled in beside him, he joked, "It's a good job I hurried you, or you would have been late." Thomas frowned. "I'm not slow, and I'm never late," he said crossly. "Let's have a race. I'll show you." Thomas and Bertie loved to race. Sometimes Bertie is quicker, especially when there are sheep on the line. And sometimes Thomas is quicker, when Bertie had to stop at traffic lights. "Peep, peep," said Thomas, as he whooshed into a tunnel. But when he came out again, Bertie was already waiting at the finish line. Bertie was the winner. "Do you want to know my secret?" said Bertie. "I've been rerouted," he smiled. "Now I take a shortcut." That night in the sheds, Thomas was telling Percy and Edward all about Bertie's shortcut. "So now Bertie always wins," moaned Thomas. Suddenly, an idea flew into Percy's funnel. "Why don't you take a shortcut, Thomas?" Thomas thought that was an excellent idea, but his coaches didn't. "You might miss a station," warned Clarabel, but Thomas wouldn't listen. "If Bertie can take a shortcut, then so can I," he puffed. The next day, Thomas pulled into Dryall Station just as Bertie was arriving. Thomas waited for his passengers to get off. Then he rushed away as fast as his wheels would carry him. He soon reached the junction. Maybe this way is a shortcut, Thomas wondered. Thomas took the left track instead of the right one, but the track just looped back to where he had started from. Later that day, Thomas found an old rusty track that led into the woods. "This must be a shortcut," Thomas smiled. But it wasn't. Thomas raced on, and bash! He crashed straight through some rotten buffers. Thomas couldn't stop, and his two front wheels came right off the track. His passengers were cross. Now they were going to be very late indeed. Just then, Bertie rolled by. Thomas told him what had happened. "I can take your passengers for you," said Bertie. That evening, Harvey the crane engine came to get Thomas back on the tracks. The Fat Controller spoke sternly to Thomas. "You have caused confusion and delay," he said. Thomas was very sorry. He promised to stay on his branch line and not take any more shortcuts from then on. But Thomas and Bertie still like to have races, and sometimes Thomas even wins.